Hi there, this is Robert St-Jacques, and we're on to the next question. How do you mitigate or help with survivor syndrome if there are layoffs? So in this case, what you should focus on is a series of steps, especially if you're a leader or a manager, right? So the first one is the first piece of advice is to over communicate and share. Now, this part may surprise you in terms of the time expectation, right? There was a study done a few years ago by the Leadership IQ Group, and they asked about 35,000 people across Canada and the U.S. Hey, what amount of time do you spend with your manager, face-to-face meeting in terms of hours per week, and how engaged are you? So they use an engagement metric. And what they found was the optimal time, so the people in terms of hours spent versus level of engagement, the optimal time was 6 hours per week that they spent face to face with their manager. So, if you're thinking that is basically the time for good times, you can imagine you may have to spend a little bit more time with your employees in these situations because again they're feeling uncertain. They've seen their colleagues go, and so the next piece too is while you're meeting with them, it would be helpful if you help them focus on what they can control, right? So before in previous answers we talked about engaging and focusing on a quarterly delivery of more focused objectives. And the other thing too is to keep in mind, right? Because people are feeling, already stressed out, and so there's two other elements that could help with that feeling of overwork, so to speak. So the first one is eliminate all time wasters, right? Does this meeting need to happen? Do they need to be present at this meeting? Does this report have to be done now, right? And so that leads us into the last piece, right? Is to reprioritize some of the work based on your customer needs or your customer critical tasks. And what I mean by this is that if you've let go 25% of your workforce, it is unreasonable to ask that 100% of the work be done by 75% of the remaining workforce. So then you focus on, okay, what are the 75% of customer critical things that we need to be doing? So combining all those together in terms of over communicating and sharing with your employees, focusing on and helping them focus on what they can control, ensuring that you minimize the time wasters, and lastly, focus on the workload for them by looking at what is customer critical and delivering that.